benefits of being part of our organization. I think it's really a great opportunity for you to learn more about what's involved and also what you can expect to be not only the short-term benefits, but the long-term benefits as you consider growing your business with us here at BNI. And I think particularly right now, as this is a very unique time, you know, I don't need to overstate that. I believe all of us are very keenly aware of what an unusual time this is right now in every facet of life, from health to finance to just politics and society. But despite all of that, this is an amazing time to be focused on growing your business. Because one thing's for sure, you started this year before the world went mad and mayhem took over with very serious goals and very high expectations for yourself and where you're going. And as we now are entering the midway point of the year, and we've made it through a lot of waves out there. Now is the time to continue adapting, but double down on what are those right activities that you are doing to continue building your business, to build up those people around you, to have fun growing your team and your bottom line. Whatever line of work you're in, I believe that that's a big part of why you're here today. And that's what we're all about here at BNI. So as you're looking at what are the right tools to help you, damn the torpedoes to get it done and have 2020 be a great year, we want to be part of that success journey for you, but even well beyond this year. And you'll hear this from our panelists today. Rest assured that our strategies and the success system that we have here at BNI, and we've been working on for 35 years as an organization, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-slow scheme. This is all about investing in the right people around you, giving to them and helping them reach their goals so that in turn, they want to help you. So we're excited to share with you a little bit more about how that works, some of our members' experience. There's no better way to learn about this than talking with some of our members. And I'd like to thank all of our panelists for investing their time to share their experience with all of you guys here today. And we look forward to then sharing with you, well, what are those next steps in helping you grow your business with us at BNI. So thank you all very much for joining us. And Jim, I'll throw it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Clay. Well, for those of you who I haven't met, I think I checked most of you in, so we met at least a while ago. My name is Jim Littlefield-Damaris. I'm the Regional Director of New Chapter Development, which means I help grow the BNI footprint in our region by helping what I affectionately like to call the poor, tired, huddled masses that yearn for BNI but can't usually find a seat. And they're not limited to, but they often represent what you've come to know with the marketing of this session, the firm seats: financial advisor, insurance, realtor, and mortgage. There I am, March the 12th. One of our panelists remembers that shot. There he is up front. We had a kickoff meeting for a brand new chapter the day before the world changed. And here I am in quarantine here in Louisville, obviously. Derby, Oaks Day is a big deal. We're starting another new chapter, and they're growing virtually, just like the rest of the world has been forced to do temporarily. And there we are on Oaks Day, wearing my Oaks hat with my Kentucky Derby virtual background. So we are super excited. The best part of my job is the folks we get to meet and work with. And we have a lot of pioneers and a lot of leaders who help us expand the BNI footprint. So today we've got a panel. That's a good looking group, isn't it? And what we're going to do is I'm going to go to each one of them and do kind of a little sort of short interview to get their slice of perspective on this whole world of BNI so that it can form you guys as guests. Some of you are here. Usually people are in this room today, this virtual room, because they are thinking of starting their own chapter. They're already part of a small group that's building towards in our phases process, and they're inviting other visitors. So you're either looking to join or form your own chapter, and we've got the right group of people here today to share their experience. So let me start off with, looks like the cowboy himself today, Mr. Kevin Jones, who's not very far into having launched his own chapter. And Kevin, I want you to share maybe on two aspects. The first of which is just a minute or two about your experience starting a chapter, but then also as a residential realtor, because we've got many of them on the call, or folks know residential realtors. The whole factor of how, yes, being in a group like this will bring you business, but what does it mean when you're able to say, I got a guy, and you're able to have the connectivity of a group of people that you can count on to bring to bear for your customers. If you don't mind covering maybe those 2 points. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Whoop, am I muted? No, I'm good, I'm good.
You're
Well, first of all, welcome to those of you who are thinking about it. I build my real estate business on networking. I don't make very many phone calls. All of my businesses come from networking. I am now, thanks to partially to BNI, am now in the top 20% of the free market centers that I work with Keller Williams, and I'm on a panel for that, which is really, really cool. To me, it brings a lot of value, and what BNI is all about, the giver's gain, because I can be that person. Whether you're in the BNI group with me, or whether you're a potential customer, or just somebody who needs some help in my neighborhood, I've found that I've become the go-to guy, and a lot of that's got to do with the BNI group. Because we have 31 members, so I've got a lot of people I can refer people out to. You know, if they need a banker, if they need somebody to build a fence, or somebody for windows and doors, you know, hey, I've got somebody. So the connection part is a really big deal to me, Jim, and that's one of the things I like about it. As far as starting my own chapter, you know, it wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy. My story is, and Barbara, poor thing, she got to hear this yesterday, but you know, I heard of BNI 30 years ago, and I thought it was just a money-making scam. And then when I was out of business for a while, when I went back into business on my own as a realtor, I started hearing about BNI again. I thought, there might be something to this thing. So I went to a couple of meetings. I was like, wow. So I started looking for a seat. Well, for you guys who are realtors, you know, there's no realtor seats available. So I finally just started talking to Clay and Jim and Todd Quillins, and we just started one. And it took us about 8 months from when we first started getting together until we officially launched. We launched with, I think, 20, and we're up to 31. But when we first met, there was only like 6 of us. So we've grown. We're now one of the, I think the last report in our region, we were the second biggest one. And I'm telling you, people in our group, we love each other. We talk smack to each other. I challenged the group I was with yesterday that they'll never catch us. And, you know, I just try to make it fun. But, and I realize sometimes there's financial issues, but I tell people, hey, when people walk out of one of our meetings, whether it's virtual or in person, and they don't join, I just kind of sit there with my jaw dropped, because I'm like, why would you not take advantage of this? This is one of the best things you can do for your business, because you own that seat. You don't have to compete against other realtors, other insurers, other roofers. It's yours, baby. And as you get to know the people and they trust you, like the whole first year, I did one transaction, which paid my dues for 12 years. But because I'm a realtor, you know, we get a higher commission. But I got 2 referrals this week from my BNI group. So, you know, not everybody buys or sells a house. So, you know, it does take time. So anyway, I think I've said enough. Don't hesitate.
Thank you so much. I would bet you people on this call could guess that Kevin's meetings are a lot of fun, and he probably attracted fun people to his group. That's the other thing that's neat about when you build a group, is you get to pick the type of people you want to spend your time with, because life is short, and so you might as well be a little choosy about who you hang out with. So Kevin, thank you much. We may circle back to you, but I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to move on down the line to, coming to us from the forest, it looks like, with his virtual background, Mr. Isaac LaFond. Now, this guy has been crazy enough to not just get involved in starting one group. He liked the process so much, he said, give me seconds. Let's start a second group. And rumor has it he may not be done over his lifetime. So, Isaac, I guess I want to ask you to address, for a lot of people give us the question, when you're building a group, how do I make sure that I'm going to have high-quality people, that I'm going to surround myself with the type of people that I would want to send to my best clients? How is that a factor? And then also, of course, as a financial advisor, what does it bring to you, to Chris, to people that you've had in your firm associated with BNI? Welcome, sir.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. You know, we're almost closing it out, whatever your work week is looking like these days with the kids at home and craziness. So, you know, Yeah, to Jim's point, I was part of building one chapter, and then I I saw the benefit to my firm through that business. And we actually, because we do full scale wealth management, we do insurance too. And so we actually have 2 seats in those groups because we occupy the resident, kind of the B2C insurance and the financial advising, investment management, financial planning stuff. And so I saw such a benefit. It was the single best time I spent every week. If I was to look at productivity and think about how I spent my time, because that's one of the things that most people balk at with BNI is it's like, oh my goodness, like, look, I got to go to a meeting every week. I got to do these one-to-ones and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at your calendar every week and you think about all the, I call it bloatware, just junk on your calendar that you wish, meetings you didn't think were necessary and all that, no one-to-one, no BNI meeting is ever bloatware. You're never going to have wasted time to do that. It's incredibly valuable. Kevin had a good point about relationships. It's a ton of fun. You make lifelong friends in it, and it's the best, man. And I'll tell you, like, especially through a time like this, the encouragement that you get from people that are in the same boat when times are a little tough or when things need to change, you get a lot of ideas. And to Kevin's point too, you have exclusivity, but it's actually nice to not have anybody in your field around you too, because they have some insight about your business that you would not otherwise think about. And so that's really key. So speaking to Jim's first point, which is quality, when we approached it the second time around, Jim has this great thing that has like what they call BNI spheres. And so it kind of breaks down natural referral partners in these chapters, right? And it makes sense that I might refer to a realtor or a closing attorney from time to time, but odds are that residential group is going to do most of the referring to each other, right? The home services stuff, it's going to stay in that sphere. And so the logic I had was I went and kind of, Kevin, similar experience. We started with 6 people, and that wasn't by accident. I basically went and I said, we need to have all the key people at the top of these spheres, and we're going to put them in charge of finding the quality people they want to refer to down the line in that sphere. And so we found all those key seats that are necessary for BNI. They're the easiest to attract and get to do BNI because they can't find a seat in any other chapter. It's impossible. But the key is you have to start with really high level people on those first few seats. Don't be cheap and do not take somebody you have questions about. You need to find good quality people that are well networked, because they'll do a great job filling the seats that they're going to refer to a lot, and the seats that are going to refer back to them. And so that's how we did it. We just started with really good quality from the jump, set a high standard, and then we expected that a high standard would be met on down the line. And it worked out really well. We turned away some people, which is hard to do when you're building out a chapter, when you're getting to a certain number before you're officially a BNI chapter, but it paid dividends. I'll give you an example. We turned down 2 commercial realtors, and then we finally took the third one. I got a crazy large client from that commercial realtor, and that is not even something that we should be close referral partners on. It just worked out. The guy's well connected, well networked, and he picked my brain up on, and I'll probably make 50 years of dues on that one referral. And that's not, I get plenty of traditional referrals and that kind of thing. That is a fluke. I'm not saying that'll be anybody's experience, but it just goes to show you the reason we declined the first 2 commercial realtors was because we didn't feel like they were well networked, and we didn't feel like they would provide a lot to the other groups. So we want people that want to feed other people and can feed other people. And I always tell people when we're vetting them, when they initially apply, BNI is the best place for a good business. It's a terrible place to fix a bad business. If you stink at what you do, please don't join BNI, because people will find out and you will get 0 referrals. But if you have a good business and you're trying to better market yourself, BNI is fantastic because people will get to know you at a really high level and they'll respect what you do. Okay. And so that would be, what I would say to Jim's questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Isaac. We've had a team that's been fortunate enough to help folks like Isaac and Kevin. About 26 chapters started in the last 4 years in our region. Isaac's team was probably the most intentional that I've seen to date about, as he said, naming those leaders in the various subsectors, what we call the contact spheres, and then going out and saying, the best way for you to make more money is not to get a random customer, it's to build the team of partners and to build that out. So their team did a great job of that. Thank you so much for being here today. Mr. Holnagel, one of the other Jims on the call,
Yep.
has a little perspective. Most our other three panelists are relatively new to a BNI or new to starting a group. Jim is our veteran. I wouldn't say you're old, Jim. You're wise. How's that? He's been around BNI over 20 years and has not only seen the BNI from his current home chapter, from a previous chapter. So, Jim, I wanted you to think, being like the elder statesman in the group in terms of longevity, the impact not just for your own business. You can talk about that. I think you told me recently you've had one of your best years in BNI after 20-some years, but maybe even other people, because you work with a lot of the trades, your HVAC people, your roofers, your plumbers. Just speak to like what you've seen and what makes you, after all these years, get excited to go to BNI every week.
I think what it is, like some of the others were saying, it's the relationships that you have in BNI. Like I said, I've been in for 20 years. I've been probably 2 or 3 different chapters. And it's just the long-term friendships and relationships that we have, as a group of people. Like I said, we have different get-togethers. We have Christmas parties and different events in the summer, and we just do a lot of things together. Doing all the one-to-ones, those help so much by being able to understand what these people need. And if you look at some of the different podcasts, we'll talk about that. The more one-to-ones, the more you get to know everybody in the group by really having that relationship. You'll actually get more business and be able to give more business. So that's pretty much my story. So like I said, I've been in BNI for 20 years and been 2 or 3 different chapters. Visiting other chapters helps a lot too, because a lot of times there's a lot of there might not be the all the people that that in your chapter that you can give business to. So if you go visit other chapters, that always seems to help. Actually, that's how I got in the group that I'm in now. Is I was subbing for one of the other, for Tom Strohmeyer. He's also in my chapter now, but I was subbing for him, and I went into the group and ended up there was an open seat that I didn't think that there was, but so I ended up transitioning into that chapter, which has been just a blessing for me. I think this month, as far as referrals, I believe I got probably somewhere within the last 30 days, about 14, 15 referrals. Now there is a realtor in my group that has been giving me a lot of business. And of course, the insurance people, and again, like we're talking, it's a sphere, there's certain people that you're going to be able to get a lot of business from. So that's kind of it.
So Jim, obviously that's amazing. 14 referrals received. Obviously Jim's
Yes.
with ADT doing home security. What about some of the referrals? Tell us, for people that kind of at the grassroots level, people that don't know how BNI works, nuts and bolts, what are some referrals you're able to give? If you think over the last couple of months, where have you been in a situation that you've been able to refer to your partners?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I always like to be known as the go-to guy. And that's kind of what I tell the customer, I say, listen, I'm your go-to guy. No matter what you need, I can help you. And, I'm in houses every day, and I can always give a lot of leads, especially if somebody that's just moved into the area. Like last week, I had a guy just moved from Texas, moved to a nice home. And I said, okay, what is it? I get all done. I said, okay, now what is it that you need? I said, do you need a landscape? You need a painter? You need a roofer? What do you need? And ironically, I was able to give 3 leads. I gave one for a landscaper, the painter in my group. Also gave a pool guy. So I'm thinking about building a pool. And I said, I've got a guy for you. And then he says, he said, do you know anybody that I'm going to make my basement a man cave. Is there anything, do you have anything for that? And they said, I said, actually I do. I said, this guy can design and he's great. I said, you're going to love him. And then I just kind of teed up for, I really, teed up for, tell them how great they are, maybe give some experiences that I've had with them. And like even the guy that's going to do the pool, I actually went and got some brochures and put them in his paper box. So, so I try to get him the business. So, and I quite honestly, I know a lot of on the field the same way. I mean, I get more excited about giving the leads than I do getting the leads. I'm really excited when I can say, oh my gosh, I just got 4 leads for somebody. I'm so excited. So that's what makes it kind of fun. So.
And I would imagine, Jim, when you're able to do that for your customer, and it probably makes their jaw drop that you have all these resources and you've been filled a long time, does that make them come back to you over and over again over the years because they know you're a resource?
Yes, it does. And they'll actually, I've had some people that were actually would live out of state and they had a second home here, and they'll text me and say, hey, Jim, that last referral you got me, That was the last lead you got me. Do you have anybody that can build a fence? I said, I sure do. And all of a sudden I sent that over to them and they were real thankful. So.
We talk about it all the time because I would imagine in the security sector, there's a few competitors here and there. And, you know, the way you can stand out is being a part of that network. So thank you. And thank you for 20 years in BNI. Thanks for being here today.
Yep. Thank you.
Last but certainly not least on our panel, we have Rob Holtzman, who's the current president of one of our chapters that was in the picture that I showed you. They were building their chapter and had their first kickoff meeting right before the world changed pretty dramatically. And I asked Rob to speak from the perspective of the former converted BNI skeptic, the person who there are a lot of wonderful ways to build your business. And by no means is BNI the only type of networking. There's chambers, there's rotaries, there's lots of things. And lots of people are kind of on the periphery. Maybe they've heard of a BNI chapter over the years, but they've said, no, that's just not my cup of tea. And we're definitely not everybody's cup of tea. But I think Rob was one of those out there watching from afar and then decided, you know what? Maybe I should see if me and my friends can give this BNI thing a try. So Rob, we're super excited to have you. Tell us your story.
Jim, thanks, and welcome everybody. Thanks so much for taking some time to talk with us this afternoon. And Jim, thank you for introducing me much better than I introduced you. Jim spent a lot of time with our group in January and February, literally almost every single week, joining us for our meetings and helping us prepare for launch. And I would always introduce Jim as last and least instead of last and not least. Don't know if you ever picked up on that, Jim, but nevertheless, I appreciate the better intro. For the folks on the call here that are interested in BNI, I certainly want to welcome you. And again, thank you for allowing me to take a couple of minutes. I do have, I think, a little bit of a unique experience with BNI because for a long while I have been anti-BNI, and I've used that term quite often, only from an outsider's perspective. I've been in personal insurance and work as an insurance agent in Louisville. Have done that for 7+ years now. And it really it kind of morphed from the group that I kind of started hanging around with, i.e. the same group that I'm now on a BNI with, where we kept hearing things about BNI, saying things like, oh, you're just going to end up working for BNI and they require so much responsibility. And you always have to come with a referral. You always have to, all of those overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. And I'm already doing a lot of work. So how in the world am I supposed to do 2 jobs? I'm working for myself. I'm working for BNI. What in the world is happening there? And so I always steered away from it. I participated in a couple of the BNI competitors, had some fortune as a personal insurance guy. Again, everybody needs it. So I did see some success, but never quite the success that I would anticipate from a group of truly trusted advisors and group that you really work well together with. And finally, it took, we're slow learners, I guess, in our group. It took us 5-6 years before we realized, wait a minute, maybe we're not necessarily working for BNI. Maybe we're working within the BNI sphere. Maybe if we just leave our egos aside, if we just decide, okay, let's get in and really see what this thing is all about and see how it works, maybe our opinions will change. And sure enough, it has changed to the point where I'm now, of course, the chapter president and kind of running the show every week. So there's a lot of things that were misconceptions. And what I want to encourage all of you guys to know is that while, yes, BNI has a great platform, yes, BNI has a great system, it's the reason it's the largest network provider in the country, arguably, I guess, Jim, the world, there's still a lot of room for your own personality. I mean, Kevin, for example, I think talked earlier at how it's a wonderful group and it's a fun group that shows up every week. This isn't the kind of thing where you show up and you gavel and you say all rise and you pledge allegiance to BNI. This can become quite a fun experience because you are choosing the people that you want to participate, and you do have the flexibility again to make it your own. So I encourage you guys, and again, this happens, I think, within all of our chapters as visitors come in, as we're courting people. The biggest objection that we hear is, oh, I don't know how I'm going to bring a referral every week, or oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I encourage you guys to continue moving forward, even if you don't know how that will work, Because if you move forward with the platform and the opportunities that BNI gives you and the attention that people like Jim will give you, what I think you'll realize is that those things are going to come naturally. I never anticipated being able to give a lot of referrals. And turns out on our power reports that we saw just yesterday, I'm one of the largest referrers. It's because of the way that BNI helps you train your mind when you're listening to people, when you're having conversations. Don't look at BNI as perhaps a negative. Don't be the guy that's been 5 or 6 years. I mean, I starting honestly, Jim, as I participate in these meetings, I'm starting to kick myself, thinking to myself, where in the world would I be now? I started a scratch agency in 2013. I knew nothing about insurance. I knew really no one other than my personal family. If I would have started in BNI around that time, how much more successful would I be? There's no doubt in my mind I would be so much further along instead of continuing to just shut the door and not want to participate. So even though there are questions, even though there are issues, what I want to leave with you is that if you really want to be able to grow your business, if you really want to create that board of directors that you work with on a weekly, arguably daily basis, and have that camaraderie, this is by far the place for you.
Rob, thank you so much. And we're glad that you guys came around and are part of the team, because we love having you and we love your creativity. If you've never been to one of Rob's meetings, you're all invited. Opportunity Unlimited. They do Zoom on Thursday mornings. Check them out. They have a lot of fun. Thank you guys all for being here. For those of you who are guests today, I think you can see why this panel are leaders in some of our chapters, because they obviously are people that, like, you hear them talking, you want to be part of their team. It's just a natural thing. So we are very blessed to have such a great group of people with us today. What I want to do now is just go a little bit at the 30,000 foot view and talk to you about, well, how do we start up a chapter? If I'm on this call today and I'm an insurance agent or a realtor, love the idea of BNI, but can't find a seat anywhere, what's the BNI process? Well, it's called the phases process, and you see it on the screen. I won't go into all the details, but basically we take you step by step to build your team. In the beginning, you're putting together a core of your most trusted group that are both a combination of successful yet hungry to grow, and you guys are going to build to 10 people. That's what we call the interest phase. We give it a maximum of 90 days. Some people do it faster than others. We like it to be about 30, maybe 45 days. Then you move into phase one. We meet every other week. On the off week, we usually do a strategy session, but every other week we bring in visitors and we're inviting them. Again, like Isaac said, so we have sort of an org chart, pieces on the chessboard. We're filling those in. We grow to 15. That's phase two. Then we start to meet weekly. We have 4 meetings to get to 25. We stop inviting visitors and we go through sort of BNI boot camp. Phase 3, it's a training. Up until this point, they've been 90-minute meetings. In phase 3, it's 2 hours, because we've got to give you everything we can to make sure you get the value out of BNI. We track and measure about everything in our region. Last year, about $84 million was reported from about 1,500 members. That's about $1,300 on average on a referral, and about $50,000 a seat. So in phase 3, we're going to train you, and we're going to be building up to a very large kickoff open house event where we grow the team even more. What is it that makes our program really successful? Well, there's a couple of keys to success. We do screen the founder. Just because somebody says they want to start a BNI group doesn't mean we say, sure. We want to make sure you can succeed. So we're going to have an interview process and a little bit of screening, make sure it's a good fit on both sides. We also screen your applicants to make sure that they're going to be able to succeed as well. We do follow a timeline, and that timeline ensures we're either going to succeed, or in some cases, we're going to shut the group down. In the last 4 years, we've started about 26 groups. We've shut down about 4 or 5, usually groups that can't make it to 10 people. Each person has financial skin in the game. We'll talk about that later when we do our breakouts here in a couple minutes. Each person signs a commitment form of what their activity is going to be. So we have people have clear standards of what they're supposed to bring to the table. And then we follow a system to build the team. Where do we go from here? Most people, if they're person number 1, the founder, they try to find a core of 3 to 6 people who are going to not just fill a seat, but build the team. And then we get the core focused on building out what I like to call their triangle. So if you happen to be Isaac as a financial advisor, you might want a CPA and an estate planning attorney. Those 3 people, that triangle, they're a great group of people that can pass their referrals back and forth. And as you can imagine, if you built 6 triangles, you'd have a team of 18 people. Getting to 10 is our first benchmark in the process. So what we're going to do now, check my time here, we've got about 13 past the hour, and we said we'd be done at 1/2 past. we're going to go ahead and open up our breakout rooms. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss a little bit of feedback from each of you. We're going to talk to you a little bit about the steps it takes to go forward as an individual or as a group. And we're going to put you in the markets, and we've got a leader in each market that can walk you through the process. We will be following up with each of you after today. We've got several people that came to this meeting last month, and they're actually in the process. 2 or 3 of them are building their own teams right now who came to this session last month. So I'm going to stop my screen share so we can open up the